folks. Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? Folks, today's Tuesday, January 6, 2026, coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, should be live on the Black Star Network. 5 years ago, mostly white domestic terrorists led by insurrectionist Donald Trump tried to literally stop the election process. We remember what took place. Democrats on Capitol Hill held a hearing today. Guess who didn't show up? Republicans. They don't actually care about it. Wait till we show you what Senator Lindsey Graham had to say 5 years ago compared to where he is today. Plus, we remember the great gospel maestro Richard Smallwood, as I interviewed him 6 years ago for his book, Total Praise. It is time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, rolling with Roland now. He's funky, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now. Martin.
Well, folks, it's 5 years ago on this day, you had supporters of Donald Trump who stormed the United States Capitol, destroying property, beating up cops. It was mayhem that took place on this day. It was led by Donald Trump. They wanted to actually string up his own vice president. Donald Trump did nothing about it. He sat in the White House, watched it happening, and frankly was happy to see it. Unfortunately, this country put those people back in office. They're sitting in the White House. A lot of those Republicans still in Congress today. And so we remember what took place on January 5th. And so many MAGA conservatives, they just go, oh, why are y'all making a big deal out of this? As if we did not see with our own eyes what these thugs were actually trying to do. Angry because their little G God lost the election. Joining us right now is Congresswoman Norma Torres of California, who was there on this day. And we remember again, there's a lot of stuff we're going to be showing you, including testimony on Capitol Hill today. Congresswoman Torres, how you doing? Congresswoman, can you hear me? All right, folks. So let's do this here. So we're going to play you. Here's a compilation video that lays out what took place 5 years ago. It's about a 4.5 minute video. Watch this.
We will never give up. We will never concede. It doesn't happen. You don't concede when there's theft involved. And after this, we're going to walk down, and I'll be there with you. We're going to walk down to the Capitol, because you'll never take back our country with weakness. You have to show strength, and you have to be strong.
350, it does look like we're going to have an ad hoc march stepping off here. There's a crowd surge heading east.
Mike Pence, I hope you're going to stand up for the good of our Constitution and for the good of our country. And if you're not, I'm going to be very disappointed in you. I will tell you right now.
We're going to give riot warnings. Yeah, we're out of here. We're going to give riot warnings. We're going to try to get compliance, but this is now effectively a riot.
49 hours declaring it a riot.
5 to 50, be advised. They're trying to breach and get to the Capitol.
Hold the line! Hold the line! Hold the line!
We have a breach of the Capitol. Breach of the Capitol to the upper level.
Mike Pence didn't have the courage to do what should have been done to protect our country and our Constitution.
Bring out Pence. Bring out Pence. Bring out Pence.
We can't hold this. We're going to get too many people. Look at this vantage point, man.
We're trying to hold the upper deck. We're trying to hold the upper deck down.
We need an area for the House members. They're all walking over now through the tunnels.
We need to move down.
Copy.
If we lose any more time, we may lose the ability to leave. So if we're going to leave, we need to do it now. We lost the line. We lost the line. All MPD, pull back. All MPD, pull back into the upper deck. ASAP. H208 with 4 members. The doors barricade. There's people flooded the hallways outside. We have no way out.
Officers still remaining on the House floor, so we can secure the members on the other side. Copy. Officers down! Get them up! Get them up!
And if I win, I will be looking very, very strongly about pardons. And I mean full pardons with an apology to many, an apology. They were peaceful people. These were great people. The crowd was unbelievable. And I mentioned the word love, the love in the air. I've never seen anything like it.
Now, folks, here's what's also crazy. Congress passed a law, literally passed a law, stating that this plaque is supposed to be placed in the U.S. Capitol. It says, on behalf of a grateful Congress, This plaque honors the extraordinary individuals who bravely protected and defended the symbol of democracy on January 6, 2021. Their heroism will never be forgotten. If you zoom in here, it says United States Capitol Police, Metropolitan Police Department of the District of Columbia. And then it says Arlington County, Fairfax County, Maryland Department of State Police, Metro Transit Police Department, Metropolitan Washington Airport Authority, Montgomery County, Maryland Department of Police, New Jersey State Police, Prince George's County, Maryland Police Department, Prince William County, Virginia Police Department, Virginia State Police, the federal agencies, Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, Department of Health and Human Services, Department of Homeland Security, Federal Bureau of Investigation, National Guard Bureau, Department of Defense, Pentagon Force Protection Agency, Department of Defense, United States Marshal Service, United States Park Service, United States Secret Service. This is the actual plaque. Here's the problem. If you actually go to Capitol Hill, this plaque is not there. This plaque is not there because Republicans refuse to actually put it up. 5 years later, this plaque still is not up because the so-called people who love talking about protect the blue, they are in cahoots with Donald Trump and these domestic terrorists, and they do not want to honor those Capitol Police officers. Joining us right now is Congresswoman Norma Torres of California. Congresswoman, glad to have you here. Bottom line is this here. I don't want to hear jack from any damn MAGA Republican about how important the police officers are when Speaker Mike Johnson has no guts. Senator John Thune has no guts. They won't even put this plaque up in the U.S. Capitol, and a law was passed saying it should be up.
It is truly unbelievable, Roland. It's so great to be with you today that we are talking about this. A simple plaque, a simple acknowledgement, not necessarily of the incidents, but of the actions of the police officers, their bravery, their willingness to stand in front of a violent mob that was trying to hurt members of Congress, trying to hang the vice president of the United States of America. And that plaque continues to sit in a basement somewhere in storage. However, some members, like myself, we have a printout, a poster of that plaque, and that sits at the front of our offices, acknowledging that we support our officers and we thank them for their bravery.
There was a hearing today. I'm going to show a little bit later. Republicans didn't even bother to show up for it. And for them, it's like this today, no big deal. What really happened? It was nothing, a walk in the park. And here's the problem. The problem is a lot of those co-conspirators on that day with the likes of Steve Bannon, the Proud Boys, and the Oath Keepers, they're actually your colleagues, Congresswoman.
They really are. And they had a celebration. Approximately 50 of them were marching, once again, trying to come to the Capitol, but, they stayed outside. And they said that they were celebrating what they did 5 years ago. I think it's important for people to understand that these individuals, many of them are violent individuals. Of the 1,551 people that have been pardoned by Donald Trump, 33 of them we know of have been rearrested on charges such as child porn, rape, domestic violence. So these are not the best of the best. And this is the army that Donald Trump is now trying to give or reward them with $150 million. Remember this, America. They are on a standby until they are recalled by Donald Trump. To do what? We don't know.
So, the thing that we still have to deal with is, look, Trump pardoned these people. They pardoned. And Congressman Jamie Raskin talked about how a number of these people have gone to commit other crimes.
Yes.
These are thugs. These are criminals. And not only that, Trump is literally giving the family of Ashley Babbitt millions of dollars
$8
because
million.
she chose to defy orders and try to break into the building. But they casting these folks as heroes, as martyrs.
Yes, and do you know how much the police officers that were injured, that were bloodied, many of them can't even return back to work? Do you know how much they have received in payment for their injuries? Zero. That's the amount.
Well, that's what we're dealing with. And unfortunately, again, for the Republicans today, it's no big deal to them. It was just simply a bump in the log. And unfortunately, the people who tried to overthrow the government that day, overturn the election results, the problem is they're the ones now in charge. They're in charge of the White House, they're in charge of the House, they're in charge of the Senate.
They have all three branches of government. And because of that, and because Republicans in Congress do not have the backbone to stand up to the bully in the White House, we are not able to block any of the actions, including bombing Venezuela, Nigeria, and God knows, is Greenland next? I mean, this is what this president is talking about, and Republicans cannot seem to muster the courage to stop him. We can stop him if we work together and pass bills to stop him.
Indeed, indeed. Congresswoman Torres, we certainly appreciate you joining us. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. It's great to be with you, Roland.
Folks, one of the January 6 rioters actually stood up today at the hearing, and he wanted to know why Republicans are not there. What's wrong with you Democrats? Congressman Benny Thompson of Mississippi, he had a very quick response for him.
That is the real lifeblood of the January 6th amendment. And if I could respectfully ask, why is this committee only composed of Democrats?
I'm glad you asked. Because no Republicans participated. No, you're not part of the thing. You're welcome to be here as a spectator. Thank you very much.
Democratic House Leader Hakeem Jeffries spoke about what took place 5 years ago today in the nation's capital.
Stretch.
All right, folks, we're trying to get that Hakeem Jeffries video ready for you. Again, this is a day that will go down in infamy in this country. But for Republicans, hey, it was simply Act 1. They're now engaged in Act 2. Their whole goal, as we said, was to completely overturn the results. Donald Trump continues to lie repeatedly about the election result. He still complains. He still whines and complains. And oh my God, oh, how it was just so awful. He's lying about voter fraud over and over and over again. And so it's clear that these Republicans don't care. And then what did they do? They went on to change any number of laws after the fact. And so, and again, when you look at all these different reports about what took place on January 6th, here was something that Jeffries actually shared on his Twitter account about January 6th.
On January 6th.
Breaking news tonight, the deadly siege on Congress.
Images not seen in modern American history. Democrats, Republicans.
Unacceptable, undemocratic, and un-American.
The entire nation understood exactly what we were looking at. An attack on American democracy.
We have a breach of the Capitol! Breach of the Capitol!
There were investigations.
The select committee to investigate.
Convictions.
Facing sentencing in Washington today.
Justice. But Donald Trump didn't just excuse the violence. He celebrated it.
That was a day of love.
He put criminals back on the street.
Approximately 1,500 for a pardon.
Some of them went on to continue terrorizing law enforcement, even committing crimes against children.
Full pardon.
And Republicans in Congress have gone along with all of them.
Oh, I have been betrayed by my country.
They've deliberately weakened the law enforcement agencies tasked with protecting our democracy. They've made their beliefs clear. That violence in service of Trump is above the law.
You would actually think it was a normal tourist visit.
On January 6th, Donald Trump tried to overthrow the government.
I'll be there
with you. We're going to walk down to the Capitol.
Republicans in Congress helped him do
Of course,
it.
I talked to the president. I talked to him that day.
They may normalize political violence, but we won't let it happen again.
Now, what's also crazy to me, what's crazy to me, is you know you watch these nutcases. You watch how they responded, and you saw that fool. You saw how that idiot Donald Trump, how he responded.
Convenience.
But
I'm
when you
sorry
want
for
to
the
see
reason.
what a real person looks like,
delayed.
a person who became president, was president-elect. Remember, this is how the president-elect Joe Biden responded on that particular day 5 years ago.
Not just an inconvenience, but I'm sorry for the reason I've delayed coming out to speak to you. I initially was going to talk about the economy, but all of you have been watching what I've been watching. At this hour, our democracy is under unprecedented assault, unlike anything we've seen in modern times. An assault on the citadel of liberty, the Capitol itself. An assault on the people's representatives and the Capitol Hill police, sworn to protect them, and the public servants who work at the heart of our republic. An assault on the rule of law like few times we've ever seen it. An assault on the most sacred of American undertakings, the doing of the people's business. Let me be very clear. The scenes of chaos at the Capitol do not reflect a true America, do not represent who we are. What we're seeing are a small number of extremists dedicated to lawlessness. This is not dissent. It's disorder. It's chaos. It borders on sedition. And it must end now.
Folks, that was just some of what President-elect Joe Biden had to say at that particular time. This is Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries today.
Good evening. Thank you, Leader Schumer, Speaker Emerita Pelosi, to the Sicknick and Smith family, and to all of my colleagues who are present. Today, we gather here on the steps of the United States Congress, the citadel of our democracy, to commemorate the solemn 5-year anniversary of the violent insurrection incited by Donald Trump to overturn the results of a free and fair election. On that fateful day, hundreds of brave, courageous, and dedicated Capitol Police and DC officers stood on these very steps and across the Capitol grounds to defend the Congress, the country, and the Constitution. They were outnumbered by a violent mob, but never overwhelmed by the seriousness of the moment. For more than 5 hours, they were forced to engage in hand-to-hand combat, confronting thousands of bloodthirsty rioters who were unleashed by Donald Trump. They were beaten with pipes, whipped, assaulted by bear spray, and pummeled by Confederate flagpoles. They were bloodied, but unbowed. We owe these heroes an eternal debt of gratitude, and will never forget their service and their sacrifice. Had it not been for their bravery on that fateful day, many of us would not be alive right now. standing on these Capitol steps, continuing to serve our nation. And I have a simple message for the violent mob of insurrectionists. Donald Trump may have pardoned your crimes, but only God can pardon your sin. James Baldwin once made the observation that history is not merely something to be read, and it does not refer merely or even principally to the past. On the contrary, the great force of history comes from the fact that we carry it within us, are unconsciously controlled by it, and history is literally present in all that we do. It is to history that we owe our frames of reference, our identities, and our aspirations. We gather here today because we are still living the history of January 6th, and we will never allow it to be whitewashed. We thank the heroes of January 6th. We remember those whose lives were lost, aspire to be a better nation, and make clear to the election deniers that we will never allow a violent insurrection to take place on American soil again. Today, we are joined by the families of officers Brian Sicknick and Jeffrey Smith. Gladys, Ken, and Aaron, thank you so much for your presence here today and for your continued strength and patriotism.
Folks, joining us right now is former Congresswoman and now Mayor of Los Angeles, Karen Bass. Mayor Bass, always glad to see you. Before we talk about what's happening in California and the craziness in Venezuela, you were there on this day 5 years ago, and it is amazing to me just the sheer ignorance. I'm sitting here while that was playing. I see this tweet right here from Representative Mike Collins, who says, on this day in history in 2021, thousands of peaceful grandmothers and others gathered in Washington, D.C. to take a self-guided, albeit unauthorized tour of the U.S. Capitol.
Oh my God.
And he goes, earlier that day, President Trump held a rally where supporters walked to the Capitol to exercise their First Amendment right about the irregularities of the 2020 election. During this time, some individuals entered the Capitol, took photos, and explored the building before leaving.
God. Wow. And that's not ignorance, though. I mean, that is just outright lying. But just think about the environment that Trump has created in our country since he came into office, which is, I can say anything. And it can be so far from the truth. I remember, and I was just sharing with a colleague that on that day, people asked me, well, were you scared? And Roland, I was so angry. I didn't even get it together to be scared. I was just outraged because I knew if those protesters, rioters looked different, there would have been blood everywhere. They would have never entered the Capitol. They came in the Capitol. They tore as much of it apart as they could. They even went into Leader at the time, Kevin McCarthy's office, and vandalized his office. But they were hunting for us, Roland, hunting for us. They wanted to find Pelosi. They wanted to find AOC. They certainly wanted to find Leader Hakeem Jeffries. And as I recall, they even went after, in a whole nother state, his brother who was in Ohio. I mean, he had to be protected. It was absolute craziness. And ironically, it was interesting. I was also sharing this with my colleague that Black people in Washington were kind of like, well, this is the day we don't go out on the street because we know the crazies will be here. And I remember saying to my family, they were like, are you going to go to work today? And I'm like, well, sure, I'm going to be in the Capitol. I'm going to be in one of the safest places in the country. Never in a million years would I would have imagined that I would have to hide because people were hunting us.
Well, that is certainly the case, and their actions are abomination. And then, of course, Donald Trump. For some reason, I don't know how the people, the man's career should have been over. But this is also what happens when Republicans were wimps and not convicting him in the United States Senate. He wins in 2024, and what does he do? He pardons them. Now he wants to dole out millions of dollars to those people claiming that they were victims.
Exactly. And I'm not sure, you might know, Roland, if any of them got elected, because a number of them started running for Congress. And the idea, and again, you just imagine Black Lives Matter, the protests that happened around George Floyd. Oh my goodness, they would have never made it in. And I was very fortunate because I happened to walk down the hall and I was probably about 5 to 10 minutes ahead of them. They were just beginning to, to tear down the stage and to get violent. But again, I still didn't think that they would be able to enter the building.
Well, and of course, what's unfortunate is that they had co-conspirators on that day. They were serving in the House, serving in the Senate, and unfortunately, they're still there.
Well, let me just tell you that one of my staff members at the time, I had to have her talk to the FBI because she overheard a conversation of, oh, don't worry, it was the day before. She saw these people walking down the hall, strangers walking down the hall and talking to each other saying, well, don't worry, Congressman so-and-so will let us in. And I will tell you what people often forget is that you remember this was COVID. The building was empty. There was nobody there but members of Congress. Even their staff wasn't there at that time. And so to see somebody walk down the hall looked very, very strange. And people noticed that. And my staff noticed that. So I had her talk to the FBI because it implicated one of the members of Congress being complicit.
Absolutely, that is the case. I do want to ask you a couple of questions on some other topics. One, what continues to happen in Venezuela? Look, California has a number of Venezuelans in that country, Florida as well. And you have people who are celebrating Maduro being snatched by Trump. But we also know through history what happens when America starts trying to run other countries. There were Iraqis who were hailing American intervention with Saddam Hussein. And then later, 1 million Iraqis were killed in that country. And that country has not been the same since. It is still, ISIS took over and it's in a state of disrepair.
24 years later. You know, we know how to break Humpty Dumpty, but we do not know how to put him back together again. And you remember the intervention. I remember George Bush's press conference where he talked about shock and awe. We're going to only be in. It's going to be very short. The Iraqis are going to welcome us with flowers and embrace us. And we never thought about what happens the next day, what happens the day after. And I guarantee you they have no plans for what they mean when they say they're going to run Venezuela. Hey, they can't figure out how to run the United States. So why would we think that they would be able to run Venezuela under the auspices of drugs when the month before he pardoned somebody that had been convicted? The Honduran president had been convicted of drug trafficking. Now, maybe he was set up too. But Roland, I found it very ironic that he chose to send Maduro to New York City. Mayor Mondani didn't even have 72 hours before he had his first crisis. And if you remember, Abbott sent tens of thousands of Venezuelans to New York. So, of course, you had crowds cheering him, but Mondani's base would be against an intervention like that. So you set him up and he's going to be there. Maduro in this trial could be going on for a very long time. Now, when we captured Noriega, and you remember Panama, because that's one of the problems with our American culture, we have memories of a nanosecond. Well, we went in and we kidnapped Noriega on the guise of drug trafficking. Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. And we took him to Miami. And he was convicted and died in prison in Miami. Why'd they take him to New York? It's very hard for me not to connect the new mayor with Maduro going to New York. And then, but I think that Trump was honest the next day. He forgot all about the drugs. He was just talking about the real deal, which is the oil. And it'll be interesting to look at those companies and see who contributed. Who is going to help pay for the ballroom? You know?
It goes to show you what happens when an idiot is put back into the White House. I do have to ask you this here. You're dealing with so many different issues there. Give our folks an update on what's happening as a result of those wildfires. Altadena trying to rebuild. There are folks who want to rebuild homes, and so what's happening in Los Angeles so many months after the devastating wildfires there?
Right. Tomorrow marks the 1 year anniversary. And just so everybody understands, Los Angeles County has multiple cities in it. The city that I have, the neighborhood that I have jurisdiction over is Pacific Palisades. Altadena is outside of the boundaries of the city of Los Angeles. It's an unincorporated neighborhood. And so within the Palisades, which obviously is a very different type of neighborhood, we have over 400 homes that are actively under construction now. I was in 2 homes this morning where one, they look as though they're going to be able to move in the next 6 months. Actually, both of them, it looked like they might be moving in the next 6 months. That is absolute record speed. Now, we have approved the rebuilding of 800 homes, so 400 of those are actively being constructed now. People are running into all sorts of problems, but most of the problems are related to insurance, financing, and their mortgages. And so people are still struggling. There's a lot of grief and trauma, especially coming off the holidays. But we have a full court press, all hands on deck in terms of getting every Palisadian that wants to return home back home.
And that particular point right there, again, so many people who don't even understand the geographical boundaries there, blaming you for things that have to do with the county as opposed to
Malibu, a separate city. People wondering, why is she just concerned about one neighborhood that happens to be very wealthy and not very diverse? Well, Palisades is the only area within the city of Los Angeles.
The psyche of folks, obviously the mental aspect as well. I mean, listen, people are still dealing with the trauma of that as well. And so, how have you and city officials have been working with folks on that? Because again, to lose everything, to lose your home and all your belongings and clothes and everything, and have to completely restart your life is very difficult, especially in this economic climate.
Well, also, and if you think of both ends of the life cycle, people in their 80s who've been living in those homes for a long time, who are not particularly wealthy. They paid off their mortgages many, many years ago and were living very comfortably on a fixed income. And then they have to start over again. And it'll be a question as to whether or not many of them are able to do that. Or if you were young with a younger family, you've now relocated and moved your children to another area, and will you come back? And so there is just, the trauma is profound, because you didn't just lose a building, you lost your memories, your sense of belonging, your sense of community. And even if you didn't lose your home, there are people who don't want to go back because they have no neighbors anymore, or just to live in an area where you have thousands of homes. There were 5,000 homes lost in the Palisades, and you're on a block where you're the only house standing. Do you want to be in the middle of a construction site? So the trauma, and again, of course, it's accentuated because we're coming off the holidays. And even though things are going fast, people still aren't there whose homes were burnt down. People whose homes were damaged, especially smoke-related damage, a lot of those individuals have returned. But again, it's still the sense of community. There's no grocery stores, there's no banks. We are paying attention to the community space. We will be opening a temporary library soon. We will be breaking ground on a rec center that is a partnership with the LA Lakers. And so paying attention to the community space, we think is very important. We've already opened up one of the playgrounds that was lost. We feel while we're rushing to rebuild the homes, the commercial area is critically important as well. Been a very, very, very painful year because, Roland, the first 6 months of the year, and really it's been all year long, of course, was the fires. But then right when we're able to exhale for a minute, then we get invaded by the US military, with an administration gone rogue. And the immigration raids affected everyone in the city. Los Angeles, 3.8 million people, just about 50% of the city is Latino. 9% of the city is African American. People are often shocked by those numbers, thinking that the Black population is a lot larger than that. And so, given that it affected every aspect of our city, the raids, which, by the way, you may not know, they continue every day. They're just not as dramatic. It's not necessarily as many of them, but there's still, Border Patrol and ICE roaming the cities, snatching people out of car washes, off of lawns, doing landscaping, and chasing people in Home Depot parking lots.
Indeed. So we hope the folks there get all the help that they need when it comes to rebuilding. And so we appreciate you joining.
We're very excited. Can I give you some good news? We're very excited about 2026. We have the All-Star basketball game in February. We have the U.S. Open for golf for women in May. And then we have 8 games of the World Cup in June. So yes, we are a city that was very traumatized in 2025, but we are regrouping and focused on all of the wonderful events in 2026.
Well, I'll be there. I'll be in Los Angeles for the NBA All-Star Game weekend. So definitely looking forward to that. And then that 2 weeks later, because the NAACP Image Awards are there, and so hopefully we get nominated again. So I will see you at festivities there in Los Angeles, Mayor.
I look forward to it. Thank you, Roland.
I appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Folks, got to go to break. We come back. We'll continue talking with our panel. Also, show you some outrageous. Wait till we show you Lindsey Graham. Now, he's been kissing Trump's ass, multiple times over the last several years. But wait till we show you what he said 5 years ago. It's amazing how they act like video doesn't exist. Oh, Charlie Kirk. What did he also have to say about those rioters? I'm going to show you right here on Rolling Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr. America is being reshaped in real time by a group of 6 people, unelected and without any checks and balances. By the end of the current Supreme Court session, education, the workplace, who gets to elect our leaders, and so much more could radically change. This week, we reconvene our legal roundtable and look at what the new America may look like and how we should respond. That's next on the Black Table, right here on the Black Star Network.
This week on the other side of change.
Book bans, anti-intellectualism, and Trump's continued war on wisdom.
This is a coordinated backlash to progress. At the end of the day, conservatives realized that they couldn't win a debate on facts. They started using our language against us, right? Remember when we were all woke and the woke movement and all that kind of stuff? Now everything is anti-woke, right? When we were talking about including diversity, equity, inclusion, and higher education, now it's anti-DEI. All this are efforts to suppress the truth because truth empowers people.
You're watching The Other Side of Change only on the Black Star Network.
Said the quiet part out loud. Black votes are a threat, so they erased them. After the Supreme Court gutted the Voting Rights Act in 2013, Republican legislatures moved fast. New voter ID laws, polling place shutdowns, purges of black voters from the rolls. Trump's Justice Department didn't stop it, they joined in. In 2018, his DOJ backed Ohio's voter purge system, a scheme that disproportionately erased black voters. Their goal, erase black votes and political power. Yeah, that happened. These are the kinds of stories that we cover every day on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Subscribe on YouTube and download the Black Star Network app. Support fact-based independent journalism that centers African Americans and the issues that matter to our community.
I'm Tasha Cobbs, and you are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered. But I need a little filter. I need something. Blow me out. Make me look 35.
So
Mitch McConnell said that we are not going to tolerate criminal behavior. I completely and totally agree. I think that all the people that came into Congress today that broke the law, they should be held to the highest level of criminal prosecution.
No, that was the late Charlie Kirk remarking about January 5th, 5 years ago. But it's amazing how they then all supported the pardoning of these same people. Oh, you want to listen to a complete idiot? Here's South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham, who has kissed more Trump ass than Melania Trump. This is him on the floor of the United States Senate saying how he was just done. He was just done with Donald Trump.
Trump and we've had a hell of a journey. I hate it being this way. Oh my God, I hate it. From my point of view, he's been a consequential president. But today, first thing you'll see. All I can say is count me out. Enough is enough. I've tried to be helpful. But when the Wisconsin Supreme Court ruled 4-3 that they didn't violate the Constitution of Wisconsin, I agree with the 3, but I accept the 4. If Al Gore can accept 5-4, he's not president. I can accept Wisconsin 4-3. Pennsylvania, it went to the Second Circuit. So much for all the judges being in Trump's pocket. They said, no, you're wrong. I accept the Pennsylvania Second Circuit that Trump's lawsuit wasn't right. Georgia, they said the Secretary of State took the law in his own hands. He changed the election laws unlawfully. A federal judge said, no, I accept the federal judge even though I don't agree with it. Fraud. They said there's 66,000 people in Georgia under 18 voted. How many people believe that? I asked, give me 10. I hadn't had one. They said 8,000 felons in prison in Arizona voted. Give me 10. I hadn't gotten one. Does that say there's problems in every election? I don't buy this. Enough's enough. We got to end it.
Kiss Trump's ass. Mustafa Santiago Ali, former senior advisor for environmental justice at the EPA, joins us right now. Joe Richardson, civil rights attorney out of LA, joins us as well. Mustafa, what's crazy to me is these people, again, they act like today just didn't exist. They act like, I mean, matter of fact, Senator Alex Padilla of California tried to offer a resolution. I'm going to see if I can pull his tweet up here. And again, it goes to show you how deranged, crazy, these people are truly nutcases. I mean, 100% nutcases and liars. Padilla said he tried to offer a resolution condemning January 5th and supporting the U.S. Capitol Police, and the Republicans blocked it.
You know, one time Bob Marley said, you will never find justice in a world where criminals set the rules. And we're starting to see that play out in so many different instances where individuals know what the right thing is to do, but they continue to not do it. They continue to bend the knee to the current president. They continue to actually lift up individuals who have caused so much harm. They've scarred America on January the 6th. And then after that, they've continued to open the wound up again and again by not doing the right thing. They allow the radicalization of individuals through these conspiracy theories, through disinformation and misinformation. And then they continue to say that they love America, but they don't do anything to prove that they love America because, you know, it was once said that love does not come with zip ties, and love doesn't come with chance of death, and love does not come with folks climbing walls to silence votes. And we see all of that playing out. And the most shocking thing is that the individuals who have a responsibility to protect our community, or to protect our country, actually continue to fail.
How about this one here, Joe? These dumbasses at the White House put out their own timeline of January 6th. And this is what they actually put. Tragedy at the Capitol. Ashley Babbitt murdered in cold blood. Unarmed Air Force veteran and Trump supporter Ashley Babbitt is fatally shot by Capitol Police Lieutenant Michael Byrd without warning as she climbs through a broken window toward the speaker's lobby. No weapon was found on her, and she posed no threat. Byrd faced no charges. 3 other Americans were also killed: Roseanne Boylan, Kevin Grissom, and Benjamin Phillips, 0 law enforcement officers lost their lives. These idiots, Joe, are trumpeting, no pun intended, these domestic terrorists.
Yeah, and they're continuing to advance this narrative that it happened other than somehow other than what was actually seen. This is not what was told. This is not secondhand. We all watched it in real time. And the idea that they actually get to reshape the narrative on something we all saw, like there's nothing to see here, like your eyes were actually fooling you. You weren't seeing what you were actually seeing, is absolutely. So Byrd was in charge because there was a threat and enough where that person acted appropriately under the circumstances. Law enforcement acted appropriately under the circumstances. It's interesting how this irony that they flipped so heavily. I don't understand how they can possibly be purport to be even pro law enforcement at this point. On a situation like that, where now the law enforcement person was the person that overreacted and did too much, kind of like the shoes on the other foot. I've heard this once or twice before. And the other thing, like Mayor Bass was saying, it's really interesting. If these folks were a certain color, I remember talking to my daughter about it, and she laughed, because if you don't laugh, you cry. And I'm like, you got all these folks climbing up this thing like they're Spider-Man. If we had done that, listen, if black folk had done that, they would have been splattering us right then and shooting us and getting for points and not even stopping for lunch. And nobody would have thought twice about it. It was amazing to me to watch what was going on in real time, but it's all the more amazing that the lie continues and continues to be perpetuated now.
Oh yeah. I mean, these people are nutcases, and when you look at their comments, it goes to show you, and just how ridiculous they are. I mean, this is paid by taxpayers, Mustafa. This is what the White House put out. Look at this here: 01/06/2021. Want to know the truth? And you got this menacing photo of all of these Democrats on here. These people are sick and demented. I have no respect for these people. They are pathetic. And this is what happens also when you sit at home and you don't vote. You put these idiots back in charge of the entire government.
Yeah, that part. As my niece always says, this is also about power and privilege, right? It is about being able to rewrite narratives. And that's what they continue to do. We see it in so many different contexts. But, for there actually to be all this video footage, individuals who came up and testified, even folks who are actually there as a part of the insurrection, who found, I don't know what they found. We'll say that they found their soul, and actually said that they were wrong for being there, and sharing their story. But you still have these individuals who now try and create these false narratives, and they believe that they can do it because they feel that they have power. They think that they're going to stay in power and hold on to power.
And again, what they did, Joe, after the election, after the 2020 election in all these states, and then we saw 2024, 45 states, they began to change the laws curtailing voting rights. Their whole goal was, we're going to steal future elections.
Yeah, that's a whole goal. And so, because they know that they can't do it numerically, they know that the demographic is changing, they know that things are changing, and all of that continues. The extension of that is what they've done down in Texas, trying to put themselves in a position to flip seats. Voter registration, voter ID, all over the country is, probably one of the biggest frontiers related to trying to directly disenfranchise voters, as many voters as possible. And so we have to be as cognizant about what's going on as possible, and not allow any of this to be normalized. Act in a state of urgency. Whatever you've got to do to be able to get to vote, to be able to help people get to vote, it has to happen. It's amazing to me how some of us that are the least of us going through what they're going through so much that they figured out that they can't afford to vote, that they don't have time to vote, that it's not important or prioritized to vote. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, the things that they've come to take for granted, whether it's some form of government support or whatever else, all of that is in jeopardy. Ask any of the people that have lost are in a different situation right now than they were last week because of the cutting of the healthcare subsidies. Ask those who are dealing with cuts to Medicaid. Ask those who have lost their jobs that work for the government for 15, 20 years, when working for the government was supposed to give you a property right in your job. So this is going on in real time. Things are being taken from folks. Things are being taken from regular folks, day by day. But the regular folks really have to stand up. And the way they need to stand up, all of us need to stand up, is vote like there's no tomorrow, because the way that it's going, there might not be.
Well, this is what these fools have on the White House website regarding Mike Pence, betrayal of the president. Mike Pence refuses to act. And they go, look at this here. Vice President Mike Pence, who had the opportunity to return disputed electoral slates to state legislatures for review and decertification under the United States Constitution, chooses not to exercise that power in an act of cowardice and sabotage. Instead, Pence presided over the certification of contested electors, undermining President Trump's efforts to address documented fraud and ending any chance to correct the election steal. Y'all, this is literally on the White House website that these dumbasses put out. I told y'all, go ahead.
I was going to say, it's the whitewashing of history in America. And, you know, this is what happens when you give up your power. Your power is tied to your vote. And when you didn't vote, you gave these folks the opportunity to be able to do these types of things. If not, they would have crawled back into the shadows. But because now the situation that we've allowed ourselves to be in, they're allowed to come out, they're allowed to rewrite history, they're allowed to say and do the most egregious things, the most dangerous things. And that's what we're dealing with in this moment. So I hope that this is, unfortunately, we have to go through this here for a little while, but I hope this is also a lesson to folks about the importance of voting, but not just to play with democracy, right? So many folks don't really understand that democracy is a verb. It is action that you have to continually do. And when you're not doing that, others have their own strategy. They have their own sets of priorities, and they are going to take advantage of that. So, you know, in this moment, we learn, but we also have to stay engaged. We also have to push back when these falsities are placed out there. Everybody walks around with a computer in their pocket every day. Use your voice and make sure that you're putting forward the true narrative. When you don't do that, you give fertile ground to those who would tell lies and plant disinformation and misinformation.
Jamie Harrison, former chair of the Democrat National Committee, shared this video today on his social media feeds.
America. Generations worked, struggled, fought and died to fulfill the promise. One nation under God, with liberty and justice for all. But now, some are trying to break that promise. They want to take away American rights just to regain power. They want to overturn free and fair elections.
Republican lawmakers are working to make it harder for millions of Americans to vote.
They want to deny a woman's right to control her own body.
Roughly half the states are certain or very likely to make abortion illegal.
They defend terrorists as peaceful protesters.
By and large, it was peaceful protests.
They call cop killers patriots. And while they pretend to be tough on crime, they vote against funding the police.
You voted against that package, against that $350 billion, just like every other Republican in the House and Senate. It's you and the Republicans who are defunding the police.
Some even promote executing their political opponents.
She repeatedly indicated support for executing prominent Democrats, including Speaker Nancy Pelosi.
Congressman Paul Gosar posted a video that depicted him killing Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Republican extremists now, they've effectively taken control of Republican leader Kevin McCarthy.
And if Republicans win back power, those who embrace intolerance, undermine democracy, and support violence, they'll be in charge of their America.
And just so we do not forget, remember those text messages that were uncovered in the lawsuit against Fox News? This is actually what those folks were saying. What did Donald Trump Jr. say 5 years ago? He's got to condemn this shit ASAP. The Capitol Police tweet is not enough. That was a text message from Don Jr. to Chief of Staff Mark Meadows. Oh, Laura Ingraham, this is hurting all of us. He's destroying his legacy. The same Laura Ingraham who's been kissing his ass for 5 years. Oh, Brian Kilmeade, Fox News, please get him on TV, destroying everything you've accomplished. Brian Kilmeade to Mark Meadows. And the biggest Trump ass kisser in all, and that's a very tough list to make because there's so many people. Sean Hannity, can he make a statement? Ask people to leave the Capitol. Yeah, that's all their legacies as well. Folks, speaking of legacy, got to go to a break. We come back. We're going to talk about the first civil rights museum in the North. Mark Morial, President of the National Urban League, will join us. Talk about that next right here. Roland Martin Unfiltered, the Black Star Network. Don't forget, support the work that we do. Join our Bring the Funk fan club. Listen, our goal is to get 20,000 of our supporters to contribute on average $50 each a year, which will raise $1 million to offset the cost to do this show, but also the network. Remember, it's this show and it's the other shows that we have. We got new shows coming down the pipeline. We got a new daily show starting in 3 weeks. We got a new health show starting as well. And so all these, so you want to support our work, you want to contribute via Cash App, use the Stripe QR code. You see it right here on the screen, the Stripe QR code. You can also use that QR code for credit cards as well. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Checks and money order to make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. That's checks and money orders. Folks, I'll be right back.
This week on the other side of change.
Book bans, anti-intellectualism, and Trump's continued war on wisdom.
This is a coordinated backlash to progress. At the end of the day, conservatives realized that they couldn't win a debate on facts. They started using our language against us, right? Remember when we were all woke and the woke movement and all that kind of stuff? Now everything is anti-woke, right? When we were talking about including diversity, equity, inclusion, and higher education, now it's anti-DEI. All this are efforts to suppress the truth because truth empowers people.
You're watching The Other Side of Change only on the Black Star Network.
Michael McMillan, President and CEO of the Urban League of Metropolitan St. Louis, and you are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, folks, welcome back. Y'all might remember when I interviewed author Jean Theo-Harris, and her book was called King of the North, Martin Luther King Jr.'s life of struggle outside the South. And it detailed a lot of the work that MLK did with civil rights, economic rights outside of the South. Well, in many ways, the battle for civil and economic rights in the North has largely been forgotten, has been ignored. In fact, I was going through my bookshelf last night and I came across the book Militant Mediator, which was a book about Whitney Young, who was the CEO of the National Urban League, one of the big six civil rights organizations. Well, the National Urban League is actually, they've opened their new building in Harlem, and what including that is a civil rights museum, the first of its kind in the North. Joining us right now is Mark Morial, CEO of the National Urban League. Mark, glad to have you here.
Hey, Roland, good to be with you, man. Thank you for having me, and congratulations on the continued success of the Black Star Network and Roland Martin Unfiltered.
I certainly appreciate that. And you just had a birthday, so happy birthday
Yes, sir,
as
brother.
well.
And we just had
So,
a birthday.
so tell us about this Northern Museum. I mean, when you think about civil rights museums, yeah, they're literally all across the South, but there's a long history of the fight for civil rights in the North.
So, Roland, thanks for the opportunity. Well, first of all, we have just opened the Urban League Empowerment Center in Harlem on 125th Street. It's a 17-story mixed-use building, which includes the National Urban League's national headquarters. Next fall, we will open another component of the building, which will be the Urban Civil Rights Museum in Harlem. That's the official name of it, the Urban Civil Rights Museum in Harlem. And we look at the Black experience and the civil rights experience of the northern states, often overlooked and forgotten. Slavery existed in the North until the early 1800s, when a number of states began to pass laws banning slavery. So much of our history is tied into the Great Migration, which was the movement of some 5 million Black people beginning in the 1880s all the way to the 1950s, from the South to the North. Isabel Wilkerson's book chronicles a number of these stories. And then there's the Harlem Renaissance period, followed by the 60s and the 70s, which is the rise of African-American political and economic power in the northern communities. Think Chicago, whether it was Bill Dawson, whether it was John Johnson and George Johnson on the economic side, or in New York with Adam Clayton Powell, and the rise of so many African-American business owners and the economic change that took place. So we're going to look at this with this spectacular new museum opening up in Harlem next fall. And I'm excited. We have a dynamic executive director and chief curator, Jennifer Scott, who recently worked at the Wright Museum in Detroit. And so we're very, very excited to really tell these stories in a time when too many are trying to suppress, marginalize, and diminish the contributions of African Americans. This museum is independent. It is owned by the National Urban League. There will be no censorship. There will be no governmental overreach when it comes to our museum. And we're looking forward to a spectacular grand opening. But the current building, 17 stories, is an economic colossus. We've got retail stores. We've got Studio Museum of Harlem, 100 Black Men, United Negro College Fund, New York office, and a number of others who are resident in the office space portion of the building. So this is really a Black African-American economic empowerment center in Harlem.
Mark, first of all, you mentioned several books there, and you're right. The Warmth of Other Suns, The Epic Story of America's Great Migration. Isabella Wilkerson, of course, that won the Pulitzer Prize. And so, yeah, trust me, I got a ton of books here. And I mentioned this book. This is Dennis C. Dickerson's book about one of your predecessor, Whitney M. Young Jr., was called Militant Mediator.
Yes.
And so when you talk about this history, you talk about what happened. Again, a lot of people, if they read about I got the biography of Adam Clayton Powell, the battle that was happening in Harlem, in New York City. Right. If you read Unbossed, Shirley Chisholm's book, she talks about what took place in New York City and Brooklyn, in those 5 boroughs as well. And so then we start talking about, again, you can William Trotter, what he was involved with, battling in Boston as well. And so there's so many examples of story that people just don't know about.
And, Roland, I think the other thing is, from a contemporary perspective, the NAACP, NAACP, the National Urban League, and the United Negro College Fund were historically headquartered in New York City. Now, we remain in New York City. Of course, NAACP is now headquartered in Baltimore, United Negro College Funds in Washington, D.C. But Dr. King and SCLC routinely came to New York not only to raise funds, but to build support for the civil rights movement. And many of the meetings, the central meetings that took place to organize the March on Washington, took place in New York and took place at the National Urban League's headquarters. I have a great photo in the building of Roy Wilkins and A. Philip Randolph and John Lewis and Whitney Young and a number of others who were in a meeting planning the March on Washington. Jack Greenberg, who was at LDF at the time. So the North was central. It's a story we've got to tell the complete story of civil rights and the story and the journey of African Americans in the United States.
Questions from our panel. Joe, you first.
Good to be with you. My cousin is Justin Robinson of the Houston area Urban League. Sorry we haven't met yet, but in any event, one of these times. But I wonder if this will be used. You guys are going to be intentional about using this as an opportunity to remind people of the importance of the Urban League, particularly in the present day, the importance of its work, and to really connect the dots towards initiatives, voting, voter representation and things like that in the future. How can you really use this as a springboard to remind people, and particularly young people that aren't so necessarily connected to the struggle from the standpoint of having dealt with it? How can we use this as a tool to really propel us forward?
It's a great question and an important question. One component of the new Urban League Empowerment Center is a 20,000 square foot conference and meeting center, which will allow us to convene meetings, gatherings, summits, symposiums for these types of discussions. So already in fall of 25, after we opened, we held an youth leaders summit in the building. In March, we'll have a college leaders summit in the building. We are intentional. Our young professionals now number some 10,000 to building and creating a platform for the next generation, which includes elected officials, activists, scholars, young business owners and entrepreneurs, media personalities, and platform personalities. We have got to create an opportunity to create a voice and a platform for them to speak and be heard. And I'm committed to the museum and the conference center being utilized that way. We have got to inspire, energize a new generation to understand that influencing and having impact requires collective action. So I say, join us or create something else, but don't stand in observation as a spectator. We need organized action, and that includes the utilization of social media tools. But social media tools alone are not enough. You've got to engage in old-time, community-based organizing and bringing people together for collective action and input.
Thank you.
Mustafa.
Well, Fred, congratulations. I really appreciate it as you highlighted us owning our own. We know some of our museums that are tied to the government. We see some of the dynamics that are going on. And I was thinking, what are some of the issues that folks are really concerned with right now? Of course, one of them is around labor and economic justice. And there's so much work that's happened in the North that often gets missed. Can you talk a little bit about how you all will be focusing on helping folks to understand where we've come from, how we've been able to make change in that space, and the directions we need to go moving forward?
I think one of the things we can highlight is the historic intertwining of the labor movement and the civil rights movement in the North. One thing that's very interesting, Roland, I don't know if you've seen the book on Charles Diggs, the legendary congressman from Detroit, but Detroit was a place in the North where there was a strong labor, Black political coalition that not only elected people to office, but impacted public policy, particularly in the state of Michigan, around the automobile and the manufacturing industry. So we've got to educate people to show people the possibilities. This conversation we are having now about affordability, we've got to make sure that the racial wealth gap and the racial income gap is not missed in this economic conversation that we have. And so I see a museum as a place to learn and explore. So while we'll have a permanent exhibition, we've got a rotating gallery, which will be able to take on topical issues that are much more contemporary. And then we've got space Already, we've got a number of community-based groups, the United Negro College Fund, who've done activations in the space. So I think, you're absolutely right. That is an issue. And it's my hope that, in the present day, with the conversation that's going to be had about affordability, that the issues of Black economic opportunity, Roland, the impact of the attacks on diversity, equity, and inclusion, the spiking of the Black unemployment rate, the fact that too many of our people are stuck in low-wage jobs will bubble to the top. And we've got to push it to the top. And this museum is a way, this conference center is a way to elevate those voices.
All right, then. Again, congratulations on the museum, the opening of the new building.
To New York, I got to get you on a tour of the building. So we'll look forward to doing that. And I want to find a time when Roland Martin Unfiltered can broadcast from the new Urban League Empowerment Center in Harlem.
All right, then. So I guess next time we go to New York City, we got a place to do the show from, huh?
You got a place, brother. You got a place. Let me know.
All right, Mark, thanks a bunch.
God bless. Thank you all. Happy New Year.
All right. Folks, going to go to a break. We come back. Headlines, Black Star Network headlines with Brittany Noble right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. And don't forget, we also got my interview I did 6 years ago with the great gospel maestro, Richard Smallwood. We're going to show you that. We thought that had been lost, but luckily I found it. And we talked about his book, Total Praise, a fascinating conversation as we celebrate his life and legacy. All that's going to be the top of the hour right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Back in a moment.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr. America is being reshaped in real time by a group of 6 people, unelected and without any checks and balances. By the end of the current Supreme Court session, education, the workplace, who gets to elect our leaders, and so much more could radically change. This week, we reconvene our legal roundtable and look at what the new America may look like and how we should respond. That's next on the Black Table, right here on the Black Star Network.
Said the quiet part out loud. Black votes are a threat, so they erased them. After the Supreme Court gutted the Voting Rights Act in 2013, Republican legislatures moved fast. New voter ID laws, polling place shutdowns, purges of Black voters from the rolls. Trump's Justice Department didn't stop it, they joined in. In 2018, his DOJ backed Ohio's voter purge system, a scheme that disproportionately erased Black voters. Their goal, erase Black votes and political power. Yeah, that happened. These are the kinds of stories that we cover every day on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Subscribe on YouTube and download the Black Star Network app. Support fact-based independent journalism that centers African Americans and the issues that matter to our community.
This week on A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie, we're talking about the ups and the downs of the holidays, the ebb and flow of life, those things that keep us running and gunning. But there comes a time in each of our lives where we need to just sit down, sit back, and relax, giving you a chance to really find out who you are and how you're going to move your life forward.
How do I learn? How do I grow from this? And that's where, resilience comes.
I'm literally walking this out in real time. It's just giving myself all the grace, all the space, all the permission that I need.
We're talking about all of these things this week on A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie here on Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate Black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress,
whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
They said the quiet part out loud. Black votes are a threat, so they erased them. After the Supreme Court gutted the Voting Rights Act in 2013, Republican legislatures moved fast. New voter ID laws, polling place shutdowns, purges of black voters from the rolls. Trump's Justice Department didn't stop it, they joined in. In 2018, his DOJ backed Ohio's voter purge system, a scheme that disproportionately erased black voters. Their goal, erase black votes and political power. Yeah, that happened. These are the kinds of stories that we cover every day on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Subscribe on YouTube and download the Black Star Network app. Support fact-based independent journalism that centers African Americans and the issues that matter to our community.
Hello, I'm Bishop T.D. Jakes, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, folks, time for Black Star Network headlines with Brittany Noble.
Roland, the Department of Health and Human Services is freezing $10 billion in federal funds. This move will impact 5 Democratic-run states. Those 5 states are California, Colorado, Illinois, Minnesota, and New York. The Trump administration is blocking the funds over concerns of fraudulent child care programming and what Trump says, giving money to illegals. The department has not cited evidence of fraud in any of the states impacted. Well, the flu is on the rise in the United States. 45 states are now reporting a surge in cases, and doctors' visits have reached the highest levels in nearly 30 years. So far, about 5,000 people have died from the virus, including 9 kids. This comes as the Trump administration pulls back on advice to get kids vaccinated. 2 countries have announced U.S. citizens can no longer enter into their country. African nations Mali and Burkina Faso are now saying that Americans cannot visit. This comes after the countries were banned by the White House in late December. Officials from both countries say they're matching energy. The U.S. says citizens from those countries can only enter into America if they are lawful permanent residents, existing visa holders, athletes, or diplomats. The travel ban is now at a total of 38 countries. Well, the Department of Homeland Security is pushing back after accusing a Hilton property in Minneapolis of taking part in what it calls a coordinated campaign to refuse service to DHS law enforcement officers. The dispute comes amid ongoing protests at hotels across Minneapolis over their decision to host immigration and customs enforcement agents. Meanwhile, the Trump administration has ordered a new enforcement surge, sending more than 2,100 ICE agents and Homeland Security investigators to the Twin Cities. Officials say the operation is focused on uncovering fraud in the state. Hilton has since clarified that refusing service is not company policy, saying the incident involved a single, independently owned hotel. Roland, back to you.
Muted.
All right, folks. Brittany, still appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Hey, folks, we're gonna go go to break. We come back. We got our shopblackstarnetwork.com segment. Also, we got our interview with the late great Richard Smallwood. A fascinating conversation. Trust me, one you do not want to miss. We'll be right back on Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr. America is being reshaped in real time by a group of 6 people, unelected and without any checks and balances. By the end of the current Supreme Court session, education, the workplace, who gets to elect our leaders, and so much more could radically change. This week, we reconvene our legal roundtable and look at what the new America may look like and how we should respond. That's next on the Black Table, right here on the Black Star Network.
Hey, this is Motown recording artist Kim. You are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered. That boy, he always unfiltered though. I ain't never known him to be filtered. Is there another way to experience Roland Martin than to be unfiltered? Of course he's unfiltered. Would you expect anything less? Watch what happens next.
All right, folks, welcome back. Got a good question for you. Are you compatible with your mate or your friends? You really think about that for a second. Well, licensed mental health therapist James Harris has developed this unique board game that could help you out. It's called the Cheesy Dates board game, designed to help you, your partner, and your friends better understand whether they need to improve their date ideas. He joins us now from Richmond, Virginia. All right, James, glad to have you here. So walk us through the Cheesy Dates board. Where did this come from?
Hey, what's up, Roland? Appreciate you for having me, boss. So yeah, I'm a therapist. I got a practice in Richmond, Virginia. And during the pandemic, a lot of people were stuck together, but they weren't really compatible. So a lot of my couples and a lot of single people were asking different questions as far as relationship dynamics. So one day I decided just to put it in a board game because repetitive questions kept coming. So I just did that. So it comprised of a nice size board, which is about 18 by 18, similar size of the Monopoly board, a couple pawn pieces, 2 dice, as well as 2 card decks. One card deck is comprised of different date ideas because sometimes people run low on spontaneity. You know, you get tired of going to the movies or bowling. And then the other card deck is just lifestyle questions. So questions on finances, intimacy, social issues, and so many tough topics that people tend not to ask until it's too late.
Okay, so how does the board game work?
So you roll the dice, move around the board. I thought I sent you know, you guys had some examples, but this right here is the board. And then of course the 2 different card decks. So you roll the dice, move around the board. Whatever card you land on is what card you flip. You ask the person directly one-on-one, or you ask the group of people that you're playing with, and everybody chime in with their answers. And if you select a date idea, you'll write that down. Then you guys do it at a later time.
Okay. And how long does it take?
It depends. From a social aspect of it, you guys can engage pretty much all night. But if you want to play the actual game, it probably takes about an hour or so. But the idea is to create that conversation piece, to exchange dialogue on those topics that I mentioned, whether it's finances or social issues or either lifestyle choices, even political issues. When I created this, you know, of course, Roe v. Wade had just been overturned. So a lot of couples been together didn't know that their partner had those type of ideas or were opposed, you know, so some of the things came up like that as well. So there's a lot of tough topics. You'll know if you want to be with this person or if this person just, you know, y'all on different ends of the spectrum.
Gotcha. All right, let's go to my panel with questions. Mustafa, what you got?
Yeah, James, this sounds really interesting. I'm curious, you know, sometimes with tough questions, things can get heated. Is there guidance on how to handle these tough conversations?
Sure. See me or another therapist. But the idea is not for you guys to be in confrontation or become cantankerous with each other. It's just to explore dialogue and see how we can communicate. And that's pretty much the purpose of the game. If you can't answer these questions directly without the pressure, just think about how much easier it would be as you put it on the game, opposed to just randomly asking your partner about those different topics.
All right. Joseph.
Interesting. You know, interesting thing that you're doing here. I wonder if, and you talked about COVID, et cetera, is there anything in particular that inspired even your living as as a therapist, because what I was getting ready to ask is there something that inspired on the mental health, particular issue, a particular thing that took place other than COVID that got you on this road pertaining to the game? But I think the best question is, how did you get on the road to being a mental health professional? Was it anything in particular? And how does that connect the dots with what you're doing now?
Yes, sir. I definitely like that question. So, first things first, I was a ward of the state when I was younger, which means I was in foster care and group home. So, through resilience, I was able to surpass that. But while being a ward of the state, therapy was mandatory weekly. And it wasn't a pleasant experience because all the therapists were older white women or Asians or something like that. So, it wasn't as relatable. So, it was hard to gain that cohesive experience from therapy. Fast forward, did Army experience, 8 years, 2 deployments, 1 Iraq, 1 Afghanistan. Still poor experience because all the therapists there didn't have military experience. And that's part of the reason why a lot of veterans tend not to go to therapy. They'll much rather go to group because it's more cohesive and you got that universality, somebody with that shared experience to help you. So for me, I just realized, like, you know what, this might be something I got to do. I'm a black man. I've had that experience as an adolescent as well as experience as a veteran. Which led me to also create a movement called Men to Heal, which focuses on men's overall wellness, their mental health, physical health, and of course, their overall emotional health. So yes, I appreciate that question. That's what led me to get in this field and start my practice. Now I have a group practice in Richmond with 5 other black male therapists working alongside of me. We're serving the community.
Excellent. Thank you, sir.
All right, then. Well, folks, if you want to check out this game, go to shopblackstarnetwork.com. Shopblackstarnetwork.com to check the game out. Again, first of all, now James, what do you recommend breaking this out at parties or in smaller settings?
I think it's both. So one-on-one with your partner, you definitely can gauge where they are, but you also can do it as a friendly family get together or your girls' night or just with your frat brothers or whoever you want to do it with. It's very interactive. It's not to create dysfunction. It's to bring y'all closer together, but most importantly, allow y'all to exchange dialogue so y'all can see, hey, we still need to work in this area, or hey, I agree with you or I disagree with you. You know, it's to exchange that dialogue. And also the date ideas, you know, that spontaneity piece will keep your relationship fresh and enhanced.
All right, then. Again, folks, cheesy date board game. Shopblackstarnetwork.com. Go to the website right now to check it out. James, we appreciate it, man. Thanks a lot.
My man, thank you for having me.
All right, folks, going to a break. I'll be right back. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Don't forget to support the work that we do. Join our Bring the Funk fan club. You want to contribute via Cash App, use the Stripe QR code. You see it right here on the screen. It's also for credit cards. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Checks and money orders. Make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered. P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 2003 7-0196. Back in a moment.
If in this country right now, you have people get up in the morning and the only thing they can think about is how many people they can hurt, and they got the power, that's the time for mourning.
For better or worse, what makes America special, it's that legal system that's supposed to protect minorities from the tyranny of the majority.
We are at a point of a moral emergency. We must raise a voice of outrage. We must raise a voice of compassion. And we must raise a voice of unity.
We are not in a crisis of party versus party. We are in a crisis of civilization, a human rights crisis, and a crisis of democracy itself. And guess what? You've been chosen to make sure that those that would destroy, those that would hate, don't have the final say, and they don't ultimately win.
Melanie Campbell, National Coalition on Black Civic Participation and Black Women's Roundtable. And we are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered all day, every day, 24/7. Spread the word.
All right, folks, we've been talking about January 5th, what took place, of course, 5 years ago. January 6th, what took place 5 years ago on this day. Check this out. Now, right now, Marco Rubio is serving as Donald Trump's Secretary of State. Very much like Lindsey Graham. It's amazing how the tone was a little different 5 years ago. Here is Rubio, then United States Senator from Florida, on the House floor.
We had police officers, the men and women that we walk by every single day that guard the doors and we say hello to, out there with riot gear getting spit on and attacked. Today, not 10 weeks ago, just a few hours ago. And I think it's important to think about all those things on a night like tonight and everything that's happened. You know, I wouldn't even be here today. I doubt very much where I would even have been interested in politics had it not been for my grandfather. He died when I was 14, but I grew up at his knee. He would sit on the porch, he would smoke 3 cigars a day, and he loved history. He was born in 1899 in rural Cuba. It was still governed by the United States. It was a protectorate. 3 years later, it gained its independence and became a republic. During my grandfather's first 60 years of life, he saw his country have an armed insurrection after a contested election, multiple presidents go into exile, 2 military coups, and the rise of a Marxist dictator. A tyranny that stands to this day. My entire life, I have lived with and next to people who came to America because their country was chaotic and their country was unsafe. What I saw today, what we have seen, looks more like those countries than the extraordinary nation that I am privileged to call home.
And now you work with the insurrectionist in chief. It's amazing how they forget. Former Speaker Nancy Pelosi testified today at the Democrats' hearing, the one Republicans chose to skip. Donald Trump continues to say that, he offered her 10,000 National Guard troops. He actually said that today. Lie, flat out lie. He's a liar. Everybody's administration is lying. They all lying. But here's Pelosi today.
I could never have had the idea that a president of the United States would incite an insurrection on the Capitol of the United States, the symbol of democracy throughout the world, on the Constitution of the United States, which he took, and we all took, an oath to uphold, on the Congress of the United States, who that day had the congressional responsibility to accept the results, to certify the results of the election. The list goes on. And today, that president who incited that insurrection continues to lie about what happened that day. On my way over here, I saw on TV that he was claiming that we did not ask for the National Guard. I thank Representative Hensinger and as well as Elaine Loria for setting the record straight and other testimony that you have heard here. For over 3 hours, we begged him to send the National Guard. He never did it. He took joy in not doing it. It was savoring that. And right now, he was saying on TV today, I wanted to send it. They just wouldn't do it. His own Secretary of Defense, acting Secretary of Defense, testified under oath against what the president is saying today. Maybe not in public, but under oath. God forbid that they ever put this president under oath. His people know never to do that because who knows what will happen. But what he's saying today, still lying about it, is an insult to the American people. Good-thinking people in our country, and I believe in the goodness of the American people. Believing in their goodness is what gives us hope that we can move on from this even stronger. His lies that he continues to tell are an insult. The courage of our founders, the beautiful vision they had of this country. And they...
Isn't that interesting? Is it interesting when you begin to actually hear how these people, and it's kind of like, just move on. Well, Mustafa, this is very simple. If Republicans in the MAGA vote, they wanted us to move on from January 6, 2021, how about you not vote again for the person who led the insurrection? How about that?
Yeah, imagine that. Imagine how much healthier our country would be. Imagine the unity that we could still be moving towards. Of course, we've never fully embraced that. Imagine how there wouldn't be so many folks who are struggling to be able to afford food or to pay their electric costs. And because these folks have refused to do what was right in the past, we find ourselves now dealing with these situations, sometimes very deadly situations for so many folks across the country. But so that's why I always say, this sits in these individuals' laps. They've always had the opportunity to do the right thing, to live up to the words that they say when the cameras are on, but the actions that they do when those cameras go off are often very devastating. So they need to stand up now in this moment. They need to push back. They need to hold accountability to stop, some of these very egregious things that are happening in this moment and the things that are coming.
Joe.
Yeah, I mean, there's an irony. We've talked about it. He talks about, Marco Rubio talks about having, his predecessors coming from, his ancestor coming from Cuba pre-takeover in the late 40s, early 50s, whatever it was. And now here you are at a point where you're standing right next to the President of the United States, undermining, basically what's supposed to be truth, justice, and the American way. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, what we're looking at in the window here is whether or not they're going to make a move on Cuba. The whole idea that Cuba got a lot of its fuel from Venezuela, and what does that mean for Cuba? Is Cuba to the Stephen Millers of the world a piece of unfinished business, as it were? So it's going to be interesting to see, to watch all of that play out, and to see where all that goes. But the hypocrisy that even the Marco Rubios of the world, who were supposed to be a bit more moderate, supposed to be a bit more reasonable, et cetera, have demonstrated is absolutely crazy.
All right, then. Joe, Mustafa, I appreciate, gentlemen, you joining me on tonight's show. Thank you so very much. Folks, December 16, 2019, I sat down with the maestro, Richard Smallwood, to talk about his new book, Total Praise. We were supposed to run that interview on February 14th, 2020, but literally it was lost. And then when he passed away, I said, man, we need to run that. And I was on vacation, couldn't find it. When I got back, we were able to locate it. And so we wanted to share this with you. It's a fascinating conversation as he talks about his influences, the people who he appreciated the most, going to Howard University with Donnie Hathaway, Roberta Flack. Lots of things we talked about in this 45-minute interview. And so we wanted to share that with you. Of course, he passed away last week at the age of 77. His homegoing will be on January 24th at First Baptist Church, Glen Arden in Maryland. We're going to be live streaming that here on the Black Star Network. But I really hope you enjoy this. This is my conversation with the great Richard Smallwood about his autobiography, Total Praise. Richard Smallwood, how you doing?
I'm fine, Roland. How are you?
I'm doing good. First, books are always personal, especially autobiographies written by the author.
Absolutely.
For you, how long did it take you?
A little over 6 years.
Really?
Yeah.
What took so long?
There was so much of my life. I did a lot of research on my ancestry. And then some of the stuff was sort of hard to deal with. Some of the things that I didn't know if I wanted to be that transparent, about my depression issues and things in my family, scandals in my family. So it took a while. I kept stopping and starting. But I'm glad that I finished it.
I interviewed Walter Mosley once, and I was telling him, first of all, I don't read fiction.
Mm-hmm.
I only read nonfiction. And Walter said, he said, you can actually be more truthful when it's fiction.
Really?
He said, because folks cut corners when it's nonfiction, because they don't necessarily want all
of it.
Of it out.
I get it.
And so, was that something that you had to grapple with? And did you finally say, you know what, if I'm going to do it, put it all out there?
That's basically what I did. I felt that I could say something. I had the platform to say some things that would help people. Mm-hmm. About mental health, about being illegitimate, and then I wanted to talk about my musical life, my tenure at Howard, how I got to where some of the songs came from that people want to know about. So, it was more than just the difficult things. Of course, the death of my mom was probably the hardest thing I've ever had to deal with. And so reliving that was not easy, talking about it and being frank with it. But I just wanted to, hopefully, I didn't want to tell a tell-all or some kind of scandal book. I just wanted to tell about my life and hopefully the things that would help other people and make a difference in people's lives.
So when you talk about a couple of things you just said depression, but also being illegitimate. Again, those are very personal things for people, but it's also stuff that people actually deal with every day.
Absolutely. And I didn't find out about my heritage until probably 2000. My mother told me that Smallwood was not my father. And of course, Smallwood and I had a very stormy kind of relationship. He was physically abusive to me as I was growing up. He was also a pedophile and molested a number of little friends of mine, girls friends of mine when I was small. So, to be honest with that.
And you knew at the time?
I didn't know all of it. When I was 11, my mother said, we got to have an adult conversation. At 11? At 11. And because it involved one of the little girls at the church, because he was a pastor, and one of my best friends. And I think my mother thought it was going to blow up, and I would hear about it. So she'd rather tell me first before it got back to me. And so we talked about it, I never heard anything else about it, but it certainly was not the first nor the last. There was a pattern even before I was born. So that and physical abuse, which probably was the reason that I ran to music, and it felt so safe and so comfortable when I would, get physically abused. I would go to the music. I'd go to the record player. I would go to the piano. I would take the Christmas decorations out of my mother, off the Christmas tree. Mother had angels and form a choir. I would stand in front of the mirror and pretend like I was singing in front of thousands of people. That was my escape. That was my fantasy, And so a lot of that, was the foundation of who I was to become. So, everything happens for a reason.
When we talk about that love of music, Charlie Wilson, when I interviewed him, he talked about where he was surrounded. It was music all the time. And so what was the music that was being played in your house that inspired you, that moved you?
Everything. My mother said before I start talking, I was humming melodies that I heard at church. So they would bring me home and put me in the crib, and I just started humming, what a friend we have in Jesus. Oh, Jesus, keep me near the cross. And sort of tripped her out because she was like, this kid can't talk. He's humming recognizable melodies. So she got me a toy piano, a blue toy piano when I was 2, and I would bang out the rhythms on the piano and hum. And then she started taking me to concerts. She listened to, I grew up listening to people like, Sarah Vaughan and Ella Fitzgerald and Nancy Wilson, and she played a lot of the then pop music on the radio that I would hear, Patti Page and just a whole bunch of Nat King Cole, just a whole bunch of people. And then, of course, I had the church influence as well. And I had she would take me to hear the Davis Sisters and the Clara Ward singers. She would also she brought me home a recording of Rachmaninoff's Piano Concerto No. 2 when I was about 10, and said, if you like this music, I'll take you to some classical concerts. I would go to the classical concerts, I'd go to the gospel concerts. My stepfather didn't allow secular music in the house. So when I was about 14, 13, I started sneaking Motown in the house. The first record I snuck in the house was Dancing in the Street by Martha Reeves and the Vandellas. That was the first. And he didn't say anything, so I just kept, bringing more stuff. I just loved music, all kinds, whether it was Broadway, whether it was jazz, whether it was gospel, whether it was classical. I just loved it all. And my mother sort of fueled that because she made sure I was exposed to it, and she would take me to different settings where the music was played.
So as you are going through school, as you are matriculating, when does it hit you that this is what I am going to do?
All my life. When I was 5 years old, I announced to her I was going to be a gospel artist. And she said, "You are?" And I said, "Yes, so I need you to get me a robe made." So there's a picture in the book, actually. I was 5 years old, and she had me a black robe made. And I would put that robe on and put the recordings on and stand in front of the mirror and just sing or play. So it's something I always knew, and it's something they always knew because I was so drawn to music that it was sort of evident, I think, to all of my relatives that it was something that I was going to do. So I never wanted to be. I wanted to be a cowboy for a while. I went through that stage, but the musician is all I've ever wanted to do, and thank God that she encouraged that. She never said you can't make no money at it, you know. Also, my other relatives say, "So what are you gonna do for a living?" You know. And of course, I taught in the D.C. public schools. I taught privately, you know, all of that. But my goal was to do what I've been doing for the past 40 years.
What is it about music that, from your perspective, affects us in such a unique way? I don't care what your age is, your race, your gender, sexual orientation, doesn't matter. Music does something to us.
Absolutely. I think music is spiritual. I think that it's something beyond us. I've had the opportunity to perform in Russia, then it was the Soviet Union, all over Europe and other countries, Finland, and the lyrics never seemed to make a difference. When we sang, people would cry, people would weep. So music it transcends cultural boundaries, it transcends language barriers. It's something that's spiritual that people feel in the innermost parts of their hearts. And I think when you write from those places, and I think with me, I probably wrote a lot from a place of pain because that's what I dealt with a lot. I think that people sense that. Spiritually, they sense it. And so they don't need the language or they don't need the meaning. They can feel it. Because sometimes you'll just hear, it may not be lyrics to it. It may be just a orchestral piece or something that will just move you to tears or something about the chords or something about, I think it's very spiritual. I think it's very spiritual. Absolutely.
You talked about Howard University and to be able for you walking on that campus among a who's who among Black America.
Absolutely. Debbie Allen was in my class. Felicia Allen Rashad was 2 years ahead of me. Donny Hathaway was 3 years ahead of me. But I got there in the midst of some of the greatness. You know, Donny would take time and show me chords as a freshman and show me how to incorporate things in gospel music, chord and harmony-wise, that I'd never heard of before. Because when I grew up, you can play too many jazz chords in the church because they would get you. They was like, oh, that's too jazzy, boy. This ain't no club, you know? So
even though that jazz came out of gospel.
Absolutely.
I mean, the foundation of that is gospel.
Absolutely. It's all connected. But, you know, church folk have always been very picky about how it sounded. You can sound to what they considered worldly. Donnie taught me that you can use any kind of chord you want, just as long as it's a good chord and it makes sense musically, you know? So I had so many, Roberta Flack was my 8th grade music teacher, you know, so I had so many people put in my pathway to sort of lead me to where I think God had planned for me to go before I was born.
You talk about church folks being picky. How have you had to deal with that? I mean, I think back when the Winans did a song with Teddy Riley. Oh, folks lost their mind. Folks lost their mind with Kirk Franklin. But going back, they lost their mind with Sam Cooke.
Right.
And what's crazy is that go to any one of those art forms, gospel is the base of it.
Absolutely.
As one of the Pointer Sisters songs, Neutron Dance. I talk about
That's
all the time.
church.
I tell people,
church.
I've done video. I've done on Instagram. I say, y'all, this is a church
That's
song.
church.
If you listen to the clapping, the organ, that is a straight up church song.
Absolute church. Absolute church. You know, Edwin went through the same thing with Oh Happy Day. They basically put him out the church because of it, you know. Because they
Oh Happy Day?
Oh Happy Day in 1969 when that came, 68 when that came out, the church was horrified. I have no idea why, but for that time, and they were playing it on secular stations, and the Hawkins singers were singing in clubs, they were singing, you know, in Vegas. They were
Same thing happened to the Clark sisters.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, you know, thank God that those kinds of people who were the pioneers were undaunted, and they went on and did what it was that they wanted to do. I had a lot of problems simply because I mixed genres, classical, a little bit of jazz, a little bit of Motown, and people didn't accept what I wanted to do, you know? So I just kept, someone told me, Dr. George Butler, who was the head of Blue Note Records, told me, Richard, you're 10 years ahead of your time, and you're gonna have to wait till the rest of the world catches up to you. I was a student at Howard when he told me that.
Well, that sucks. You gotta wait?
I know, and it sucked to me, but you know, 10 years to the day that he told me that was when I got my first record deal.
Wow.
So, I mean, you know, a lot of times you have to really be strong in what you believe and believe this is something that I've got to do, this is something that I'm here for, and regardless of whether folk like it or not, I'm going to do it. And you just keep doing it until people catch on. You know, now they call me traditional, but then I was contemporary.
Wow. Well, which again shows you in terms of how music changes.
Right.
I think that what that does is it limits a person's gift.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because a new generation can bring on a whole new sound. And more importantly, you still are reaching people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because there's some music that, I mean, look, I can tell you, when I hear the traditional choral music, I'm like, man, when the next song? Because that's just not what, I mean, my parents went to a Methodist church in Houston, and I hated when the choir, I was like, here we go. I'm like, Lord, here we go. Because that had no interest to me.
Right.
And an older congregation probably was perfectly comfortable with that.
Yeah. Well, I think you have to be diverse as a writer. I mean, I think the problem is when you write one kind of thing that only appeals to one sector of the listening audience. I think you have to be diverse. And down through the years when I've recorded, I've tried to put something for everybody, for the senior citizens, for the younger folk, and you know, all of that. Because I just think we're supposed to reach everybody. And like you said, when they put binders on you or chains on you in terms of what you can and cannot do, that limits people's gifts. Because people's gifts are so much, if everybody was the same, it'd be boring. But everybody is unique in what they've been given in terms of their gift.
You have worked with many of the folks who they would dare say would be on the Mount Rushmore of gospel music. Your top three, who you learned the most from?
Gospel or just music in general?
Only separated. Music in general, and then gospel.
Okay, music in general? I think Aretha, I learned more from her. We had these long talks on the phone, and I just sort of garnered from her wisdom, you know, things she would tell me and things of her, you know, experiences like that. And because I admired her so much since I was 18 years old, it was just an amazing friendship. It really was.
I don't think a lot of people really understand her musical brilliance. They just think in terms of being a singer. But
she was amazing.
But to be self-taught,
Absolutely.
Her ear can pick up something that quickly.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just amazing. And I think I just respected her so because of what she had accomplished, and because of the gift that she had, and certainly Edwin Hawkins was one of my biggest influences as well. He sort of took me under his wing when I was about 20 or 21. Took me on the road with him, began to play for him, and again, this was someone who was so full of wisdom, who had gone through the whole thing about not being accepted in the church, who had gone through the thing about your music is different. It doesn't sound like anything else. It's not quartet enough. It's not choral enough. It's got jazz chords. It's got jazz harmonies in it, So there were people like that, like Roberta Flack as well, who just taught me a lot of things by just by me sitting there observing and listening. I learned so much from them. So I'm glad that people like that were put in my way to sort of, and like Donnie, and I'm so proud of his daughter, Layla, who is just, I said, your daddy is living in your throat. He really, really is, She's just amazing. But I think, what would he be doing if he was still alive today? I can't imagine the wonderful, amazing music that he would be writing and performing.
You talked about, obviously, your issues with depression, but also looking at him.
Yes,
what he had to deal with.
Absolutely. And the thing about that is that when we were in school, I never saw a sign of that. Donnie was one of the nicest, most humble people I think I've ever met. He would play for anybody on the talent shows at Howard. I mean, just a really nice guy. And when he left Howard and began to, gain popularity when his records were released, we started hearing things of strange behavior. We were all still in school, and we thought it was drugs. We didn't know what it was. And that was the thing, Donnie's on drugs and blah, blah, blah. It wasn't until much later that I understood that he had, major, major, major mental problems, and because that just was not him. He was just a wonderful, wonderful person. But you just never know what people are dealing with. And a lot of times I think that mental issue is what feeds into the creativity. It has so much, that connection is so strong, I think.
Well, I think that, giving an example today, Kanye West.
Absolutely.
In terms of dealing with that, him not wanting to take his medicine, not take his drugs, which some people say has an impact on one's creativity, but you also have an issue with one's sanity.
Exactly. And I sit here as witness that the medication that people take now are not the medications of 20 and 30 years ago. I've been on medication for many, many, many years, and it hasn't stifled my creativity, but it depends on what you take, and depends on what your psychiatrist, prescribes for you. But you can still live a normal life. And that's why I'm always on the mountaintop screaming, get help, get professional help, reach out, because the church, again, they'll say, well, you're possessed. You come up here and lay on the altar for about 5 hours, and then we'll cast it out of you. Well, if you had high blood pressure, if you had cancer, if you had whatever you had, you'd go to a medical doctor. So there are doctors that are here for the mind as well. There's nothing wrong with taking advantage of that, and I'm glad that I finally got up the nerve to go, because it was one of the best things that I've ever done was to go into therapy. It changed my life. Absolutely.
Earlier you mentioned the pain in writing. And so many people say to songwriters, until you have dealt with pain, you are not truly a great songwriter. Why is that?
I don't know. I think the pain, again, fuels what it is that's in you that causes you to write, because you're writing from your experience. Sometimes you're writing from hurt. And I'm not saying that every writer has to go through intense pain in order to write good music, but for me, I think that had everything to do with the music I've written. you know? It comes from that place. And I think people recognize it, people's spirits pick up on it when you write from that place and they can identify with it. And for me, I just think some of the music that I've written has come from, especially the ones that people say, "Oh, I love that song." And I'm like, if you only knew what I had to go through to write that song, you know. So I think there is a correlation between the pain and the creativity and really writing, because for me, it's harder to verbalize it. The easiest way for me to talk about it is through the music, you know. And I think I can do a better job of really portraying what I feel through the music as opposed to just talking about it.
Of the songs we're familiar with, what would be, of those songs, what song that people will be shocked to understand the backstory?
Probably Total Praise. That song, I mean, it being a praise song, you would think it came from a upbeat kind of positive situation. Actually, when I wrote it, my mother was very ill. My godbrother was terminally ill. My mother went into foster care. She started taking in foster care kids when I was 19. So I had all these little foster care brothers, foster brothers and sisters, and one of my foster brothers had a complete mental breakdown. So I was like being caregiver, going from my house to the hospital, trying to take care of my loved ones. And it got so overwhelming that one afternoon I was sitting at the piano and I just started crying. I was like, God, I can't seem to do anything to help. I can be there for them. I can't make the pain go away. I can't make the illnesses go away. I just feel so inadequate. And the song Total Praise just started coming to me. And I was trying to write a pity party song because I wanted to say, okay, you know, Lord, I will lift my eyes to the hills, so I need you to, you know, come down from the hills and dry my tears and rock me in the bosom of Abraham or something, you know. But it kept going towards this praise song. And when I finished it, it took me maybe about a half an hour, 25 minutes to half an hour to finish it. I realized that it was a song about praise, whether it was mountaintop praise, which is easy when everything is going right. But this was like a valley praise song, you know, praising God when we can't see the outcome, when we don't know how it doesn't seem like it's going to end right, but we praise him anyhow because we know he's in control and we know that he's got our backs regardless of what we see or what we feel. And so that song came from, you know, a heavy place. And it's like probably the most popular song I've ever done, you know. So it's funny sometimes when you think about the backstories. The backstories sometimes are very misleading to what people think.
Well, I think the Earth, Wind, and Fire recently talked about one of their songs, and same thing. And I forgot the name of it. And they were talking about all the people play at their weddings. And they're like, y'all, that song is about a one-night stand.
Right, I remember
reason.
Right.
And they were like, yo, that's a one-night stand.
Yeah.
They said that's not
it's not a wedding song.
Not a wedding song. But again, you know, folks don't quite understand that.
The lyric, right.
When I interviewed John Legend, and interviewing singers is different from interviewing somebody who's a singer and a songwriter. So I'm always curious about their process. Will Downing, I was interviewing him once in one of his hit songs. He said, I just finished making love to a woman and it was amazing and I got up and just went and wrote a song.
Okay.
John Legend says he likes to write as if he's going to work, right? He gets his briefcase, goes into the studio, sits down in sort of a very, very structured way in which he writes. How do your songs come to you? What is your process?
They come to me in very strange ways. I'm usually nowhere near a piano. I could be in the grocery store, I can be in the airport, I can be in a hotel, and something will just hit me. And thank God for my phone, because I just take it out and put it down until I can get home and get to a piano. But very seldom do I sit down at a piano and write. I may have my mind on something else, and all of a sudden a lyric will come into my mind, or either a melody will come into my mind. And of course, I have to put it down immediately because I'll forget it if I don't. But that's the way it usually comes to me. Just sometimes I dream them. There are times I always keep my phone next to my bed in case I hear something in my dreams. I wake up and put it down and go back to sleep and get to it the next morning. So for me, it always comes in very odd ways, not the traditional way. Well, I'm going to go in the studio and write a song. I think if I say that I'm going into the studio and write a song, I don't think I would get anything accomplished because that's just not the way I've ever been. It's always come very odd.
So have you been in conversations with people and all of a sudden you just sort of check out?
Yes. Some of my friends, they used to say when I was in school, Richard goes to the planet Zatar, because we'd be talking and I would just like drift on and say, he's in Zatar again, because I'll hear something or my mind will go somewhere else and I'm trying to hold on to it so I don't lose it, and that's the way that it usually happens for me. It's the way it usually happens for me.
You tell this interesting story about Sammy Davis Jr., which, reading it, man, you blew it.
I blew it big time. One of my dear friends, Linda Gravatt, who I went to Howard with, Sammy Davis Jr. was her godfather. Sammy Davis Jr. came to the Kennedy Center, and so she asked me and some of the other kids I went to school with, you want to go see my goddaddy Sammy? I was like, sure. What an idol, an icon. And so we went to see him, and the show was just amazing. He could do everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so we went backstage, and evidently she had told him about me. And I've always been very, very shy and very introverted. And a lot of times when people put me on the spot, I would freeze up. So when she introduced me to him, she said, "Oh, Uncle Sammy, this is Richard. This is the guy I was telling you about. He plays, man, he writes, he sings." So there was a piano. We were backstage in the green room, and he said, "Oh man, come and play something for me." And I said, "No, that's all right." And when I tell you, I have never been cussed out that royally in my life. My friends, when I got in that car, some of my friends didn't speak to me for 2 or 3 weeks because they were so upset with me. Because I got terrified and I froze, I guess I was maybe 22, 23, something like that. But I always remember that. And now and then.
Was it the only time you met him?
That was the only time.
Wow, you never got a second shot.
Never got a second shot. That's why I'm like, if you get a shot, you better take it, because it may not come around again.
Well, that's one of the things that I tell folks all the time, that you're never aware where God places you at a given moment.
Absolutely.
And that you have to always be ready.
Yeah, you do. And I wasn't ready. That was the least thing on my mind. I just wanted to meet him and tell him how much I enjoyed the show, because the show was amazing. I didn't want him to ask me to play.
Now, after that, were you always prepared?
I think so, yeah. That happened very early on. And so I learned from that experience, be prepared. Get a song in your mind, so if somebody catches you off guard, have something you can play, have something you can sing or something,
Now, has the reverse happened, where you were in the Sammy Davis Jr. position and somebody met you
absolutely
and froze?
Yeah.
And how did you get them through it?
I would just usually talk to them and say, it's all right, you don't have to be afraid. I'm just Richard, just a normal guy and stuff like that. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. But I always try to put them at ease. Sammy was like, "Oh, okay, man. All right, well, good to meet you." And he went on to the next person. So that was my lesson.
Well, I think of a lot of people, we certainly have those lessons.
Yeah.
And I tell folks all the time, always be prepared.
Yeah.
Always be ready.
Exactly.
Always.
You gotta be. You gotta be.
If you had to assess gospel music today, where is it? How do you see it?
Well, it's at a different place. Somebody asked me that earlier, and I was saying, I don't really hear the kind of writing that really stands the test of time. A lot of times I hear ditties and just something for the top 10 Billboard charts. I've always wanted to write music that will last long after I'm gone. You know, I mean, the Amazing Graces, the Precious Lords, I mean, the
Right.
songs that have, because I think that's the kind of songs that brought my forefathers through, you know, and people still listen to it. So I've always wanted that, and I think a lot of times people now write for the popularity, as opposed to writing something with some meat on it that really is going to make a difference in people's lives. People always ask me, what is the most amazing thing that has happened to you in your career? And they expect me to say some kind of award, or Grammy, or Stellar, or Dove, or something like that. And I always say, it's when people come up to me and said, your music got me through my mother's death.
Right.
Your music got me through my divorce. Your music got me through school. You know, because I think that's what music should do. It should reach that place in other people that really encourages people and
Right.
makes a difference in their lives.
Well, I think it's just like, I remember reading a piece, Andre 3000, been off the scene for a while.
Right.
I think he was going to Coachella, and he was talking to Prince. And he didn't want to do any of his own music. And Prince, who went through that, who would do concerts and didn't want to do any old music, people like,
right,
bro, we ain't trying to hear the new stuff.
Right.
And Prince said, do your old stuff. That's what they want to hear.
Right.
But it's also how folks feel. I say to Tamla Mann, I mean, from this point for the rest of her life, she can't do a concert without singing "Take Me to the King."
Exactly.
I mean, every art, to me, if you are, when you're an artist and you have that kind of song, Richard Roundtree said this about acting. He got upset when people kept calling him Shaft. Because he was angry that it defined him. And his dad said, son, do you understand that a whole bunch of actors who have gone through this life and they've done stuff and don't nobody remember them?
Nobody know who they
and
are.
he said that it caused him to change his view because he said he then embraced it. He said because clearly that role had an effect on people. And I think that's also, so to me, when you are a singer, when you have that song that does it to folk, and then if you don't sing it, they mad?
Absolutely. I mean, and I think I went through that when I was younger, because I got some new stuff, you know, but they want to hear, you know, I Love the Lord, you know, they want to hear Jesus, You're the Center of My Joy. They want to hear those songs that, because if I look at my own life, there's music that when I hear it, I know exactly where I was or what I was going through. It becomes a part of the fabric of who I am. And that's how people are. They want to hear that song that got them through whatever situation, or they want that familiarity. So you can't, I don't care how many songs you write. So I put a medley together, about 4 or 5 of those songs that we sing every time we get up, because I know people want to hear. And the response is just like crazy, because people identify with that. Oh, that's my song. You know, so
I mean, I think if Kirk Franklin could put out 100 new songs.
Right.
But if he did a concert and didn't do Melodies from Heaven.
Exactly.
They'll run him out that joint.
Absolutely. There's songs that define you, and they not only define you, but they have specific purpose and inspiration in other people's lives. And I think sometimes people want to embrace that, you know?
You mentioned songs everlasting to everlasting. How often do you, when you run into artists, do you pull them aside and try to teach or drop wisdom? I mean, for me, I can see people, I can meet folks, and I see them on television. And I'll try to do that, and some people take it, some people don't. For me, I don't care. Because for me, it's this is not about how do they greet you on the street. It's really, to your point, same thing. When people come up to me and they say, man, I had no idea about a lot of this stuff.
Right.
What you've taught me, what I've learned.
Right.
And I mean, I had a brother come up to me in Atlanta airport, and he walked to me and he said, thank you. Shook my hand. I said, appreciate it. He said, no, thank you.
Right.
And walked off. That's all he said. But I knew exactly what he was talking about.
Exactly.
So, how often do you, when you see somebody who is a gospel singer, and they're not maximizing all that's in them, do you pull them aside?
Absolutely. Now, I think, for me, I have to have some kind of relationship with them. I'm just not going to go up and say, hey, you, you
See, I will.
this. I know you will.
No, I just think sometimes it's like when you see it,
right.
I sort of think about the Sammy Davis Jr. piece.
Right.
I may not see that person again.
Absolutely, yeah.
And if I see something, I'm going to offer you a critique or something.
Right.
That might help you. And if you receive it, great. If you don't, that's on you.
Right, right. I get it.
That's just me.
I get it. But there have been a number of people I've gone to, especially if I see a major talent there and I don't think that they're utilizing it the way they could or being all they could be, you know. And I was talking earlier today about the whole thing about we didn't have social media, you know, back in my day. Now I've got this crowd of young people who follow me, you know, who say, Mr. Smallwood, tell me about this. Tell me about how can I make my writing better? How can I have longevity? You know, and it gives me an opportunity where I probably wouldn't meet them if it hadn't been for social media.
Right.
To really sort of reach out to these kids coming behind me and say, okay, listen, this is what you need to do. You don't need to do this. You don't need to do this. This is what you need to do, you know. So social media, and I'm on Instagram, I'm on, Facebook, Twitter, the whole 9 yards. So I get the opportunity to talk to a lot of people that I wouldn't talk to normally, who I think I can help. Because I look at the people who reach back for me.
Right.
You know, and I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them. So I think that we have that, that's something we have to do.
That's why I never understand. I spoke at the University of Oklahoma and years ago, and a student said to me, aren't you afraid of sharing all this wisdom and insight because somebody in this room might take it and be better than you? I said, well, first, I ain't scared of nobody in this room.
Right.
I said, because two, don't think for a second that I'll stop learning.
Absolutely.
I said, but to me, knowledge is completely wasted if you keep it to yourself.
Absolutely.
But the flip side is that the other piece is just that people, I had this, I so wish I had a camera going, but that was this. We were Jeffrey Osborne golf tournament. Massive storm came through and it got wiped out. And we're sitting at this table, and to my right is Ahmad Rashad, and seated next to him was Eddie Levert, and seated next to him was Barry Bonds, and seated next to him was Sugar Ray Leonard. And we're sitting and talking, and we were talking about the greatness within all that we do. So Ahmad was talking about being a wide receiver. Eddie was talking about being a singer.
Right.
Barry Bonds was talking about being a hitter. Sugar Ray was talking about boxing. And it was just this amazing conversation of just greatness within what we do and how we do it and the craft and what makes us great.
Right.
So Sugar Ray was going, man, you could have been a great boxer. I was like, what the hell are you talking about? He said, oh, no. He said, I saw you dancing last night. He said, your footwork is, he said, a man your size, your footwork. He said, man, I was just watching you and I'm going, dude, you had some of the best footwork. He said, no. He said, I was watching your footwork and was like, man, he's got great footwork.
Okay.
And so then we were just, we were just talking about just different things. Right. It was just this amazing conversation and how we were all sharing this unique insight in terms of what makes us as good at what we do. And Napoleon Hill in his book, Think and Grow Rich, talked about mastermind group. And I think for a lot of people, they don't do that enough where they put themselves in position to learn from others.
Yeah.
Like you can be here, but there's still somebody who can still teach you something.
Absolutely. You can always learn. And that's my prayer and my desire, that I will never stop learning, because the more I learn, the better I become. And I think it's so important that I do reach back to people that are coming behind me and encourage them, because it's so important. I've never had an issue with showing somebody a chord or talking about songwriting, because I think I have the knowledge that I have simply because I'm there to help other people. So
name an artist you would love to write a song for. Okay, name two. One who's deceased, who you would have loved to have written a song for, artist or group, and then living.
Oh, wow. Let me see. Deceased. I wrote something for so many people. That's a good question. Maybe
Sammy.
Somebody like... Maybe, you know what? Ella Fitzgerald. I loved her. I would have loved to have written something for her. Absolutely.
All right, someone alive.
Yeah. Alive. He's a writer, and he writes his own stuff, but I would love to write something for Stevie Wonder. Because I've always loved his gift. Always loved his gift.
Ask him.
Yeah, I will.
Call him up.
I've never, I remember I was singing for Sissy Houston's birthday party at her Sunday service in church, and Stevie was in the audience, and the audience was singing Total Praise, and he was standing up singing. I was like, Stevie Wonder knows my song, and everyone was like, fool, of course he knows it, so sometimes you put yourself in, you're surprised at how the music reaches.
Right.
Past, genres. It's music. Good music is good music, So that's a good idea. I think I will.
Do that. I'll send him a text too. Steve,
okay.
Last question for you. I ask every book author this. What was your wow moment in writing this? Whether you're researching or autobiography, where they're writing it and they go, wow. Whether it was a memory or was something, what was that one wow moment for you when you were writing Total Praise?
I think well, there were a number of them. Well, one that sort of stands out in my mind is that my relationship with my stepfather was very volatile. And so I grew up, and even after he passed, right after I graduated from Howard, he passed like 2 months after I graduated. So I had all this stuff in me that I never got out to tell him, and sometimes I would go to his gravesite and holler at the tomb, because it's like there were so many unresolved things that I didn't understand. The wow moment for me is that, number one, he was a pastor, and number two, he was a musician. He was the one that would open up the hymn book and say, okay, play the such and such a hymn. Now transpose it, put it in A flat. Now put it in D flat. He was the one that said, you got to play for the church. I didn't want to play for the church because I was too shy. He was like, nah, if I have to put a curtain around you, you're going to play for the church. If he had not done that, if my mother had married someone else, I probably wouldn't even been in the church. But he was such a church person that he insisted, and I was like, okay, I'm beginning to understand his purpose in my life, because he had so much to do with the foundation of my musical journey, you know, because he was the one, you need to learn how to play in more than one key. You know, suppose somebody starts a song in church in A and you can't play in A, you're gonna sit there and look stupid. You know, if he hadn't forced me to do that, I would have never done it. And so it has so much to do. So that happened near the end of the book. And I was like, wait a minute. All of the negative stuff that happened between us, I understand now his purpose in regard to me. You know, so that blew my mind, because I had to look over all the other stuff, all the negative stuff, and said, listen, he really had a purpose in my life. He was the one that said, look, I was 7 years old. He was like, you're going to start playing for church. I said, I can't play in front of all those people. Yes, you can. He was the one that pushed me to do it. And so he's so much of who I am today, regardless of the negative stuff.
Total praise.
Yep.
The autobiography, Richard Smallwood.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much,
Thanks
Roland.
a lot.
I appreciate it. My pleasure.
All right.
Thank you.